All right, all right. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. This is Jeff Carroll, sci-fi writer, filmmaker. Check out my movie, Stay Out, streaming now. Just released last week, so check it out. Anyway, today I want to talk about a conversation that I had, which is kind of where I get all these little video blogs from. But somebody was talking about like history in science fiction and the importance, or just how it's portrayed. And do science fiction writers have a responsibility to get history right? And because they call their books fiction. And you know what? That's a damn good question. Because you call it fiction, does that give you the license to like misrepresent people? Does it give you the license to say things that never happened? I say no. I say no. Now, you can't portray a black Columbus, Christopher Columbus, unless you have, you set up the world to be some opposite, bizarro world. But to come and show Christopher Columbus getting off the ship with on Valentine's Day, giving the native indigenous Americans hearts and candy, that's out of control. We do a little bit of that when we write medieval periods. They show the people very clean and the environment very nice and healthy and stuff. And if it's before the Black Plague, none of that was realistic. But nobody wants to see all of that, right? It's just too nasty. Certain things are just realism is just like real hard and harsh. You don't need to see that much. It's not a daggone documentary. But in terms of representation, there has to be some knowledge of historical accuracy to when you change things or when you tell stories. Yes, it's fiction, no doubt, but people were real people, and things really did happen. So you can't go totally ignorant to that, because things just didn't match. And I know like a lot of writers credit themselves at doing the diligence of history. They do the diligence of making sure that things were invented and sayings were being said at the time that they wrote their stuff. And if they, like me, I know when I wrote my period piece, I made sure that, I didn't use modern sayings. And you can't, you're like somebody in a horse and buggy, all of a sudden somebody break out a camera phone. Now if you're setting up a time travel world or some type of bizarro world, yeah, no doubt, it's really high fantasy, right? But if you're doing something very realistic, you have to do the diligence. You have to pay attention to historical realities. That brings, or historical things that happened, right? So that brings me to, we was actually talking about Sword and Soul, right? Which is the black, it's black Conan the Barbarian stories, black empires stories, and first of all, as a person who studied history, right, who's got degrees in history, minors, even if minors a degree, so I ain't lying when I say that, but as a lover of history, right, you see more than the average person in terms of truth, lies, and exaggerations and twists, because you know what happened, right? So for me, yeah, I've already seen more than I like to see, in terms of writers taking their liberties and telling so many different things that just didn't happen, I don't even know if there's a way to police it. It's out of control and it's uncontrollable, right? So there's no way to stop writers from writing wild things in their stories, there's no way. You can come out with a policing, you could come out with a certified historically accurate. None of that would stop writers, because all it takes is somebody writes something that's really good and connects to people, and that trumps anybody's that trumps the police on the accuracy police. And then the accuracy itself is debatable, right? Columbus didn't discover America, but he did discover it for Europeans. They didn't know there was people there. So it's historical perspective. He might have been a conqueror is viewed as somebody good from the people that he's conquering things for, but for the people that he's conquering may not be good. And hopefully there's people that are liberal enough to be able to see, the rationalize both sides and see that, conquering isn't good no matter whose side you're on. But so it's almost no way to police it. Okay, just so you're just gonna throw that out. What I do say is it's for writers that want to be responsible, right? For writers that want to get it right, for writers that care. I think it's important that not only do we read and study individually, but I think it's important for us to share, for us to come to some type of consensus. I remember one of my mentors, great mentors, because, I'm not going to say he was my mentor, but Dr. John Henry Clark was the mentor of Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And I remember learning about Dr. Clark, right? He's got a good documentary called The Great and Mighty Walk. And he's the story of an academic, a African historical academic. And he shouldn't even be limited to historical academic. He should just be called, African historical. He should just be called a historical academic, because discovering the things that he learned about African people are not just African history. They're human history, right? And humans lied about other humans, regardless of the race. And why race was just why they did it, but they did lie, so we didn't see the people that did these things for the great things that they did. Therefore, we didn't understand what greatness looked like, because we had an image of greatness that isn't correct. So what he did in his great and mighty walk was, I'm learning these things. Let's talk about these things together with other people who have learned these things. So he and other scholars, black scholars, would engage and debate with other white scholars. And then we learned why they changed the information and why they lied about our history, right? But now we have a new group of scholars, right? We got black scholars. We don't really have consensus groups. So we do, actually, I'm not going to say we don't. What Dr. Clark started was I'm going to get it wrong, a group, organization for African history, black history professors, right? Then Malefi Asante, I don't even think Malefi Asante was the one that did it, but I don't know who started study of classical African civilizations. Then we have African Heritage Studies Association. And I think with those organizations, which I have presented at and been affiliated with, I think they are really good concepts for us to really use today, and use more, right? And expand them beyond the academic world, because the things that they debate about at their conventions are things that more of us should know about. We should hear their presentations. We should hear the new information that comes out in terms of our studies. Now, mind you, they probably have become as stale as other organizations of academics, right? Because We're not really, people that push the envelope don't always get embraced by many of these organizations, because most of the people that are in these organizations are recycling the same information, maybe with a little bit of twist on it, but because if you come out with something so new, some concept that's so radical, people don't know how to take you. So I'm pretty sure that, Dr. Clark's legacy has gotten a little stale in some of the organizations, just because I don't hear about the things that they talk about. And our history is that controversial that if it was to be taught, it would be controversial, right? And people would be losing their jobs. It's just by the nature of it, because the system has kept, certain things. Simple fact that when it comes to gender, African people created that. So for us to have some gender confusion is not other modern culture dilemma. Our history corrects that. So that's just one thing, and it's very divisive. It's even divisive for me to talk about it. And that brings me to the next subject. I don't know if I'm going to become a academic because I'm a historical fiction writer, or Afrofuturism writer. I'm going to do a blog on that next, which is the importance of history to futurism and Afrofuturistic writers. But back to what I'm saying, just in historical accuracy and just in historical portrayal, right? I'm not going to become an academic, and I don't know too many fiction writers that want to be academic professors or academics, right? But there is a amount of history that we should know and discourse on, dialogue on, and I don't see that. I don't think we've ever had that as a panel discussion. I don't think we've ever had a convention on that. I don't even know if we've really had a round table discussion about history at a bar, So I post a lot of different things on my Facebook page, things that deal with history, and I call myself a Hotep because the term Hotep is named after Imhotep, right? And he was the world's first multi-genius. He was the first to use the mathematical equation pi, at least recorded, and he built the pyramids, and he did open heart surgery. So great man, regardless of whether he was black or white. He's a great man, first great man, right? Multi-genius, first multi-genius. Everybody should be respectful of that, and he was a good person. But it's been politicized, because people that love African history, like I do, and other people who respect Imhotep, use the greeting Hotep. We used to say Hotep, I still say it. Actually, when I have my characters say it in my books, in my works, because that is a greeting of an African person who has respect for African culture, in my opinion, right? So my characters do that as well. And I just took that term on, I just said, let me correct it. Because what happened, we started talking a lot of LGBT, we started talking about a lot of LGBT stuff, and it got lost in the sauce, what we were doing in terms of, I guess, understanding what Africans' perspective was on the LGBT positions. So what I decided to do was just look, regardless of that, I know where I stand in terms of LGBT activities, behaviors, people, whatever the hell you want to call it. This the LGBT issue that that's not going to be up for grabs for me. You could call me homophobic, but it's not going to be accurate. So I just took that on. So why I say that is because I call myself a Hotep. And as a Hotep, that to me, I'm saying that I am an African historical lover, right? And as that, I attract a lot of conversations about African history on my Facebook page. And I've noticed that some of my writer pals, we have different views on what that is. And I think it's interesting for us to have a conversation together. In fact, I'm going to use this video to put out a call to other black sci-fi writers for us to have an international panel on African history and how it's portrayed in black sci-fi, African sci-fi, whatever the hell we want to call it. We're not about to agree. It's not about agreeing. It's about just sharing our views on it. And then maybe we can move it to agreement. So anyway, I'm out of time. Thank you, Sci-Fi Express Lane. I expressed myself. Oh, snap. I took some action. The old Jeff is back. Anyway, like, subscribe, share, and comment. Peace.